of you, but welcome again. This is Jonathan Watts Hull. I'm the Assistant Director for Policy and Partnership Development. And the campus plan updates for 2015. The peer review process is a way of making sure that the plans that we send on to the governor are the best reflection of what is being done on campuses. Campuses submit to us their overview of what they've done in the past year. They are intended to be a look at their highest priority activities. With a bit of an overview on their campus-wide activities as well. Today we're going to go through the basic purpose of the review, as well as look at some of the general process of it, give you an idea of the timeline, and some examples of what feedback looks like. You will be getting, after this conversation, you'll be getting a copy of this presentation, as well as your team assignments and your liaison assignments. So you'll have all that after this comes out, and the rubric will also be to you then. So again, the campus plans, they are very similar this year to last year. The 2014 plans made a big focus on data, and we are continuing to focus on sort of metrics and data so that campuses are really looking at the numbers that they can use to measure their progress. This year, we streamlined them last year. This year, the plans are streamlined even further. We are really looking for the high priority, high impact work that campuses are doing that makes direct connections between the mission of the campus, the completion goals that they've set, the strategies and activities on campus, and the measures by which they'll gauge their success and their progress. The governor is still the final audience. The governor and the legislature get this in December. And we do use this as a tool throughout the year to respond to inquiries both from the press and from the public about what are we doing for college completion in the state of Georgia. As such, we like to make sure these plans are as comprehensive, as complete as possible without being as comprehensive as possible, because again, we are looking at those high priority, high impact work that will affect the greatest number of students. They provide campuses with an opportunity to look at their progress, to look at their measures of success, their measures of progress, see where they stand, and also every year change where they're heading. These have been live documents. This year's plans, again, reflect a great deal upon last year's work, and they should be, from that perspective, a nice bit of continuity for both campuses and for our audience. The review process, in general, the purpose of these is to both refine and to extend what is being discussed on campus so that it is making the best use of their work. There are two parts of and again, I want to point out that when we're doing the peer review, we're not necessarily we're looking at two different perspectives. We want to both look at the campus's activities and whether there are places where they could be adjusted or improved, but largely we also want to make sure that these reports truly get at what they say they're getting at, and that is part of that peer review process. There are two parts to this peer review. The first part is a rubric that will be filled out individually by each member of the peer review team. It's a fairly straightforward Excel spreadsheet. It gives you an opportunity to both enter a score or a ranking and provide some comments. There's also a narrative feedback, a one-page narrative feedback that is generated by that team. One page is the goal, and really this is to sort of say, how can you improve this plan? How can you improve what you've submitted? The plans, and so I should probably point this out, the plans are not intended to be very long. They are generally 7 to 10 pages long, sometimes a little less, seldom more. The data tables and all that is set into an appendix, but the general content of the plans is a relatively easily digestible length. The teams, we have 6 teams of 6 members this year. About half of the team members have returned from last year and half are new. Each team has a system office liaison. There's also within each team at least one other system office person who is on that team as a team member. And then the rest of those teams are comprised of folks from campuses around the state. We have mixed up folks. Within this region, we found sort of everyone brings their individual expertise. and knowledge to the group. It has been last year was really actually, I think everyone sort of enjoyed that process. Each team will get 5 reports to review. Again, the outer limit on this would be a total of 5 10-page reports, but then generally they come in shorter than that, and they are in general pretty interesting reads. It's a good opportunity to see what's going on campuses. What you will get in terms of your resources, you'll have the strategy surveys that you can use. Those strategy survey results are the first part of what goes in. That's a comprehensive overview of what campuses are doing. That will tell you whether there's a little bit of alignment there. There's equally you'll get the campus plans themselves, what they've submitted. You'll get our guidance documents, which will be submitted to you when you get the whole thing. That's basically our metrics guide as well as our overviews. And then you'll also get a copy of the 2014 update. And that's new this year, but that's useful because, of course, the 2014 updates should not be all that different from the 2015 updates. So this is a nice opportunity to see what sort of alignment you have. The review procedure, you'll get a rubric. Each campus, you'll create a rubric for each campus, a very quick checklist of how well they meet certain criteria, opportunity to provide comments on that. You will generate essentially your own narrative comments on the plan from that document. At some point, you will have a team meeting that will allow you to share your information, share your reflections on this. That will be conducted almost, I'm going to guarantee you it's going to be done as a conference call or a WebEx, depending upon how your group prefers to do it. They generally take less than 90 minutes to complete. You go through all 5 of your plans, and you will, and from that will generate the one-page feedback from the group on each campus plan. Fairly straightforward feedback. The feedback also can be, we can actually generate, I can distribute to the group some sort of exemplar feedback from last year, because that should be fairly straightforward, and the type of things we tend to comment back to the campuses. And again, that feedback is handed to the system office. The system office will take that, consolidate the rubric and the feedback, align any questions that might arise, and then send that to the campus individual responsible for submitting the plan for their response to the feedback. The review rubric, in a little more detail, is an Excel spreadsheet. You'll need to enable macros when you open it up. It should work on both Mac and PC. It will provide you sort of a basic overview for how to review these plans. It's a fairly straightforward scale, not at all to exceptionally, how well they meet certain criteria. There is space for making comments on the actual on the page itself, so you get that sort of consolidated document when you come into your review. We ask you to submit this to us, and then we will consolidate them into one centrally scored rubric, and that allows us to send them that sort of rubric scores without them being individualized. But the individualized rubrics are really useful for you to sort of, before you meet with your group, have the opportunity to make sense of, sort of to set out where you think they need to go and what they're doing. And it's a sort of your starting point, and then you bring them to your team and you can align those all together. The rubrics build into this narrative comment. The narrative comment is the actual feedback that the campuses tend to use. And this is where you really can help them outline how they can improve their plan, what areas they need to focus on, and also where they really demonstrate excellence in both their plan and in their work. When we are looking for feedback, we want something fairly concrete and fairly direct. So if there are things that they need to either report on, data you think needs to be included, or if there are steps in the process that they should expand upon, that would be being very specific on that is very important. The document is created by that whole team. The instructions that we ask, one of the things that is sometimes difficult for the campuses to see is that this linkage between, and we're very specific on it this year about making sure your goals are specific and measurable. And so that is a point at which would be very concrete instructions from these groups have come back out in the past, and that sort of was the area where we struggled the greatest with the most last year. And having not seen any of the plans come in yet, I don't know where they're going to land, but I have a feeling that will continue to be a challenge to make sure that we are really looking at concrete goals. Some of the things, and there's a list of these things that we have listed out. For the most part, you want to make sure as a group that you feel that this plan attaches their activities and the specific strategies and goal back to their institutional mission and their student body, their profile. The degree to which they are aligning these elements is critically important to, is critically important to making sure this is a sort of a meaningful planning process for them and also really a reporting process for us. So these are some sort of narrative comments. The narrative comments, example one, these are a bit dated, but this is sort of the, I'm going to let everyone read, I'm not going to read it to you, but the idea of this one is that this is comment that would come back to a campus. And the reality is it outlines the activities. It doesn't provide details to success. It doesn't provide effectiveness. This feedback doesn't really give enough specificity. So this feedback that you're seeing on this page is clearer, has more specifics, and at the end has a very concrete, however the institution should work towards further development strategy, very much more a concrete strategy, some very specific way to improve its activities. So if there are further questions about the nature of the feedback that's required, feel free to contact any of your staff liaisons, and they should be able to provide some element of this. Again, when the feedback is generated by that team group, it should naturally flow towards fairly concrete ways to improve it. And in general, our experience has been that has not been a challenge. So as sort of is implied there, you'll have an on-staff person who will help to coordinate the meeting virtually. We can do it in person, but it's really essentially it's very difficult to manage that. The time, date, location, all the technical assistance, getting a conference room together, conference call room together, or a WebEx space, or a Google Hangout, however that gets done, that's all something that will be done through the system office. One thing I would like to I would like to have is that when we send out the list of folks, we will it'll have a system liaison plus the campus and system office peer reviewers. If that group would establish essentially who their secretary would be, someone who's going to detail out the narrative, sort of help to coordinate that so that we have a person who is involved in this process who will end up generating that narrative comment. That's the first step. Finally, let's go through the timeline. So we are about 2 weeks away from the draft status report and the final strategy survey being done. That means that we'll be getting those reports in on the 3rd. By the 5th, and actually earlier, because we'll go ahead and get the group assignments out this week, but we will no later than that. You'll get your assignments, you'll get your actual narratives, and we would like to see that group coordinator self-assign if you're willing to do so. And if you actually, going back to that, if you feel comfortable with that when you get your group assignment, please just speak up. I don't think anyone's going to shy away from having somebody else step in and do that work. By the 21st, that's 2 weeks of 2 working weeks. We'd like you to have reviewed those reports over those 2 weeks and completed the rubric. So take 2 weeks to read, digest, and score the 5 plans in your group, and then by 2 weeks after that, by September 4th, to find a time to review and discuss these reports as a group. So by the 21st, have your rubrics completed, and by the 4th, have your reports discussed as the group. So that by the 11th, the week after that, you can submit the feedback as a group. And that should give you enough time to sort of make that all comfortable and easy to do, and it also gives us enough time to make sure that the feedback is able to go on the process. Because the next step in the process, we will, when that submission comes in again on the 11th, on the 5th, we will submit that feedback back to campuses. We'll assemble it, we'll collate it, we'll consolidate it, and we'll send it back to campuses, and that puts them on schedule to do any revisions that need to be done and getting it back to us for submission to the governor's office. If you do have questions in the follow-up, my phone number and my email are both there. I'm delighted to work with you in any way that we can. And again, I want to thank everyone for all of their willingness to serve on this, both in this training and also as we go forward through the whole process. Thanks so much, and I will be in touch.